Welcome to the Basketball and Brew podcast produced by Jude McLaren, and I am your host, Dan Miller. Thank you for joining us for this week's podcast, and please help us out by subscribing to our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you are watching, and please give us a follow on Twitter. Today's podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, both right here in beautiful San Marcos, Texas. Pie Society is an excellent stop in San Marcos for great New York-style pizzas made with the freshest ingredients, local beers on tap, and an overall fun and cool vibe. And come into Zelik's Ice House, a stop in San Marcos that includes great happy hour specials, a spacious patio, and a great time with friends. We are very excited for episode 18 tonight as we welcome in our guest, Miller Kopp. After an outstanding high school career starring at Houston Christian, Miller played 3 seasons at Northwestern University in the Big Ten before transferring to Indiana University to play his final 2 seasons for the Hoosiers. Along the way, Miller played 157 high major games and started 144 of them, becoming the all-time leader of games played in the Big Ten, one of the most efficient three-point shooters in the Big Ten, and went to 2 NCAA tournaments with Indiana. Miller, thank you for coming on Basketball and Brew.
Appreciate you having me, man. Glad to be here.
Man, I'm excited to talk, and obviously we're going to be talking a lot about that Twitter thread that just went viral where you had advice about playing in the Big Ten and so many great points. But I want to start with Indiana basketball. I mean, Indiana has such a great tradition, incredible fan base. What was the last 2 years like just playing at Indiana for the Hoosiers?
Oh, it was incredible. It was everything I ever, expected and more. It was weird because I was on the other side of it as well, but they embraced me in my first year and my second year even more. So I loved it. They really gave me a home, and Coach Woody and the staff and Scott Dulce and the AD and everybody really took me in and made me feel at home, which is the biggest thing you can really ask for when you transfer in, because it is at the core of it. It's a transactional thing. Like I'm giving you a basketball player and a good student. You're gonna hopefully give me a great experience and
Right.
stuff like that. So, but they made it more than that. So I'm appreciative for them.
And the fan base is they're wild about basketball there in Indiana.
Yeah, they're nuts. It is all basketball. Nothing less, nothing more. It's all you can imagine, and then some. Honestly.
Yeah. It seems like it from afar, and what a great place to play. I'm excited to talk to you tonight about playing there as a Hoosier, and then also 3 years before that playing there for Northwestern. I got to ask first, though, how did it feel last week to get 2 of your teammates drafted? And I know you guys are really close, and you have a great brotherhood. And what was that like for Hoosier Nation and you and your friends?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, I just know how hard they work and their hunger for those experiences and those goals. And man, it was incredible. Like I texted Fino like the day 2 days before, and I was like, look, man, I just want to say congrats wherever you go. Trace too, and I was like, look, I'm not gonna text you on draft night. You're gonna get blown up, but just know I'm proud of you, and I'm lucky to call you my brother and teammate. So it was really cool just to see that and know how much it meant to them.
Yeah, right. You could really see your brotherhood this year, and on that team, you guys had a great team. I know you ran into a tough Miami team in the NCAA tournament, but you had that first win against a really good Kent State team. What was that like playing in the NCAA tournament with your brothers this final season?
Oh, it was awesome. It was. I'll never forget it. I took a lot of pictures and videos for myself. I like those type of things, and it was an experience where I felt it and saw it and lived it, 2 years ago, but it wasn't the same. It was as this past year, just because it was my last year. It was a lot of
Right.
the seniors last year, and I think we all appreciated the moment. Whether it was the flight up there, the hotel, the walkthroughs, everything, that the team meals, the late nights after we lost, and just understanding that the season ended not how we wanted, but it was a heck of a ride.
Right. Right. The NCAA tournament is such a great time of year and survive in advance. And I'm glad you guys got to that second round and talked it over. I know it was tough to exit, but I love the way you said you just took it all in and cherished every moment. I got to take you back to 5 years ago, if you don't mind. You were a big time high school recruit right here in our state, Texas. And I know you had a lot of options. Can I ask, and those, we will have some listeners who will listen to this podcast, maybe who are going to be recruited or who are in those shoes. What was that like, getting calls and texts from college coaches when you're in high school? How did you narrow it down, and how did the visit process go? And then eventually, how did you and why did you choose Northwestern University?
Yeah, so throughout high school, I was never, I was always like climbing. Like I was always extremely hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a process for me to where I wasn't always like the highest recruited guy. I broke onto the like national scene my last summer. Thanks, thankful for the Houston Defenders, AU program, because they really gave me a platform to show what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't necessarily always the guy that was a clear cut like high major guy. I was the guy who battled some injuries, some nagging injuries from middle school and early in high school, and it was always kind of a tough situation where I was always like clawing and scratching and just trying to fight my way to play the best games and the biggest guys and the biggest moments. And my going into my last summer with the Defenders, I just tirelessly worked and worked and worked and worked, to the point where I was journaling every day. I was writing down all my workouts, everything that I did from like, in the morning before school, I was doing like core and stretching. Then, my lunch period, I would, do like some shots on the gun. And then after school, we had practice. And after that, I would do, me and Xavier Wheeler would play one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I did that for like months and months and months and months. And then, my last summer, our first tournament, after our first day, we, either play like 2 or 3 games in a day.
Mm-hmm.
I went from 0 offers to, like 9, all
Wow.
high major.
Yeah.
And so after that weekend, I went from 0 to like 16 in one weekend. And
Wow.
so it happened fast. And, it's like the old saying, it's like, decade long overnight success or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But like, that's kind of what it was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the build up to, finally having the opportunity and, grabbing hold of it and saying, okay, this is my turn and I'm going to make the most of it. And so with that being said, Northwestern was one of the first, schools to offer me, that was a high major school. And so that went a long way with me. And, one of the reasons I went there was, just the communication with the, head coach, Chris Collins.
Yep.
Right. And so that was huge for me because, he's the guy who decides to be putting, who's going to be putting the game. Right. It's always a head coach. The assistant coaches will chirp and they'll yell at the coach, be like, hey, we need to put, so-and-so in. Yep. But like at the end of the day, he's choosing who to play, who's going to get on the court, who he trusts, who he doesn't. And so I feel like I had a great relationship with him.
Right.
And I feel like I could trust him, and he knew me and my game and my mentality really well. So for me, that's what was the biggest thing. I could trust him, he could trust me, and we could kind of build off in that relationship. So, handling the college coaches when I went from 0 offers, no coaches texting me to 50, it was tough. But at the same time, it's something that like every kid in high school like wishes for, like all these coaches calling them, and like you're with your friends, you have like a head coach of wherever, you're like, oh, I gotta go, guys. I'm getting a call from so and so. But like that stuff is cool. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to be able to sift through, what you want to hear versus what you need to hear.
Right.
And so that's where I think most kids get messed up, is that, coaches are smart. Like they're getting paid millions of dollars to coach a program that makes hundreds of millions of dollars for a reason. And they know how to talk to you, and they know what you want to hear, but also what you need to hear. And so, I'm not here bashing on coaches, but just like, I'm telling a recruit who's on campus, both of those things, I'm going to be real with them and say, hey, this is what we got. This is what we do. This is how we play on offense. This is what we do on defense. Coach is really this way. I don't know what he tells you during the recruiting process, but, so-and-so here, so-and-so there. And it's about figuring out a plan of attack in terms of, okay, I have these questions I'm going to ask.
Right.
Okay. With every school that I'm taking serious, I'm going to say, who's on the roster now that they have that's similar to me? Who is the coach in the past that's similar to me? How do they play on offense? How do I fit in that offense? How do they play on defense? Do I fit into how they want to play on defense? Like if I was going to go to West Virginia and do a run and jump trap all game, like I probably wouldn't fit there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I might go somewhere else. It's more of like a pack line defense or whatever it may be. So it's like you have to know yourself and also know where you're going and
Right.
in the situation you're going into. So I think kids get a lot of messed up a lot because they get infatuated with like the sexy school or the name or the big school or whatever it may be. But I mean, you see it in the draft every year. It's like guys go to the right schools and they can play and they can show what they can do and they have the opportunity. And that's the biggest thing.
Right. So that's so many good points I want to talk about there. So you chose Northwestern, and obviously it had a lot to do with Coach Collins. And you had 3 good years there at Northwestern. And I remember in your Twitter thread, one of the things you said is to choose a school that for the right reasons. My 2 different choices were for 2 different reasons. So then you decide to go to Indiana. Can I ask what went into that decision, and then how come you chose Indiana?
Yeah, so backtracking, I didn't answer all your initial question, but like I went to Northwestern because I trusted Coach Collins, but I also, as a freshman, the goal is to play and to get an opportunity, to get on the floor. Like,
Right.
I always say, like, as a freshman, you want to get on the floor. As a sophomore, you want a bigger role on the floor. As a junior, you want to score on the floor. And as a senior, you want to win.
Yeah.
I feel like that's usually how it goes.
Right.
And for me, my freshman year, like my only goal was I wasn't coming in thinking or wanting to shoot as many shots as I could or score as many points as I could. I was like, I need to get on the floor.
Yeah.
I need to figure out how to play. And that was the situation for me, the best situation for me, because I thought I saw a path, right, for me to get on the floor, and I worked my butt off, and I made it happen.
Yep.
And in terms of Indiana, I needed to make the change because I had felt like I had done as much as I could at Northwestern, and they had done Coach Collins and Chris, the staff had done so much for me, and I wanted a change basically, of atmosphere, of environment, and I was always infatuated with Indiana in terms of just the fans, the history, because I'm a basketball junkie myself, and it's like, why not surround myself with other people like that, right?
Right.
And so for me, that was a huge selling point for me, is like, I need a change, right? But at the same time, where's the best place for me in terms of basketball opportunity and to win at the highest level? And so Indiana was that for me. And Coach Woodson, I trusted him as well. So.
Right. I have to ask, I saw where you put Kellen Sampson gave you some great advice going into freshman. Yeah. Kellen Sampson, friend of the podcast. He was our very first episode. He was on this podcast, Basketball and Brew. So shout out to Coach Sampson. What was that exact advice that he gave you?
Yeah, so I remember it vividly because I was already committed to Northwestern, right? And they it's funny, they recruited me, but no one knows this, and I never told them this. My family only knows this, is I was never going to go to University of Houston, only because I went to a game there to just as a fan, just watching the game. I got my wallet stolen.
Can't go there.
And I was like, man, like I can't, like I'm not. And at the time I was in like 8th grade or like 7th grade or something. And like whether it even got stolen or not, maybe I lost it. I don't know. But that's why I was like, man, like I can't go there now. Like it's just like bad karma, maybe.
Yeah.
And I love that that staff. I feel like they do things the right way and they work their tail, which I respect and love.
Right.
But the advice he gave me was, as a young and hungry, soon to be college freshman, I'm trying to find out everything I know I can about, how to play, how to get on the court. Because I told you, as a freshman, that really should be your only goal.
Yeah.
How do I get on the floor? How do I sniff the floor? And I asked him, I'm like, what advice do you have, for me to get on the floor? And he goes, do what you do best and don't go outside of that. Because that's when bad things happen.
Yep.
Right. So, like, my best attribute was shooting the ball and basically making the right decisions with the ball.
Sure.
At that time.
Yep.
It wasn't breaking guys down off the dribble. It wasn't playing out a pick and roll. It wasn't, starting to break in transition. It was shooting the ball, catch and shoot, being a great ball mover, and, being a physical and smart defender. Right. And so he was basically explaining that when you do things outside of your, natural ability skill set, in the beginning at least, you get in trouble. You start turning it over. You start, basically losing the trust of the coach.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, that's great, because even though I got on campus and I did do that stuff, I learned quickly, and I was like, wait, I wrote this down in my journal. I gotta just do what I do best, which is shoot the ball and space the floor and be smart with the ball, right? And so I in turn made less mistakes than the other freshmen that were there, which then gave me more trust in the eyes of Coach Collins. And so that's great advice for any freshman. I think I'm guessing it applies really well to their program, because the best way to get the floor is to earn the coach's trust and
absolutely
do that by not messing up.
Yep. And do what you do best. That is awesome. And I love that term. Grade A ball mover, great shooter. Okay, Coach, I got to get into this Twitter thread. The first thing I have to ask is, what inspired you to write this? Your season gets done. You played 5 years. It had to be a lot of emotion. And you wrote this 100 different, things about playing in the Big Ten and playing college basketball, and advice for coaches and players. And it was just wonderful read. I know we gave it to all our team. I have other friends in college and high school who shared it. But what inspired you to sit down and write all 100 that you put out there?
And so I for me, it was after the season ended. Like you said, it was emotional, but it was something that it was a pill that I swallowed before the season even started, which I think gave me a lot of relief and freedom, playing at the end of the year, or the whole year. And I should say, just knowing that it's my last year, I'm not going to play uptight and tense about it because of the fact that it is my last year. It was more of like, let's go out with a bang. I got nothing to lose. And I had that mentality the whole season. And so at the end of this, when the season ended, I basically, was like, I played all these games. What have I learned? Like, what can I tell somebody about, playing these games? And so I just started a list on my notes app, started with 10, like, things I learned, and then added another 10 that night. And then the next day started another 20, and then just got in the flow of things. My brain started working. And then, one thing led to another. I was at like 95, and then I just made a couple more up and then called it 100.
Right. And it's amazing thread. And I got to start with the very first one. Well, I want to go with the first three because they kind of go together. But the toll on your body that college basketball takes, availability is the best ability. And then the Big Ten being the most physical conference, and you stand by that.
Yeah. Your best ability is your availability. Like, I know so many guys like I who have been fallen victim to, their habits, I guess.
Right.
You either rise or fall to the level of your habits, I believe. And so for me, the biggest thing that I did that was allowed me to be available is, my diet, my nutrition, my sleep, my habits, my pre-practice and post-practice stuff. And, being able to, let's just say, do those over and over again throughout high school and then college was huge for me. And it allowed me to kind of slowly just rise to new levels each year. And
Right. Hey, Miller. Can you hear me, Miller?
Yep.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I think your picture might have just froze a little bit. I don't know if you mind
Yeah.
hitting your
I
camera and then
did.
hitting everybody.
Yeah.
Refresh. It'll come
Let's
back.
do.
We'll get it back on.
Let's see.
Small technical difficulties, no
Yeah, it
problem.
might be my Wi-Fi or something. Let's see if it pops back up.
And no problem if we can't. We can just go audio. We're good.
All right. Dang.
Yeah, we
Just a
can put your
black
graphic.
screen.
Yeah, no problem. We can even put your graphic up there maybe. Okay. But I do
Dang,
want to.
that's fun.
Sorry, Miller. We got
No,
we're
that's 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 on me.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. The audio is the main thing anyway on the Apple Podcast and
All
everything.
right.
We're hearing this. So I got to ask about. I love this one that you said your role as a player can and will change over the years. You know, because so many people they want that role of being the star or whatever. But as a college basketball player, if you end up playing 4 or in your case 5 years, your role is going to change. What did you mean by that? And how do you adapt as that when your role changes?
Yeah, like I said, in there's seasons of life, there's seasons of your career. And my freshman year, I was trying to get on the floor. My sophomore year, I went from a 3.5 point
That just
scorer
shows that.
into a 13,
Mm-hmm.
14 point scorer. And
Right.
so, or whatever it was, I don't remember exactly, but like I made a big jump. So my role changed from my sophomore year or my freshman year to my junior year to where I was just a role player to then I was a leading scorer. Then the next year we were trying to make a jump as a team, and I took a step back in terms of the scoring and had to be more of a leader in terms of the locker room and the court. And then when I transferred, I knew I was going to take a hit in
Right.
terms of like shots, my offensive production. But it took me a year basically to swallow that pill and to understand what that looked like and what that took, and how I can have an impact without scoring the ball, which is, a lot of guys don't really understand. It's like, Trace Jackson Davis, he's going to score and he's going to block shots and he's going to
Mm-hmm.
rebound and he's going to, guard ball screens and he can switch 1 through 5. Like he's going to do all that and he's going to score. For me, I'm not going to shoot 20 shots a game. And I had a great talk with, one of my, basketball mentors, Teddy Wheeler, when I was kind of struggling my first year at Indiana. He was like, look, bro, like you may never shoot 12 shots a game ever again in your career.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
you may never shoot 12 to 15 shots a game in your
Right.
career ever
Right.
again.
Wow.
How are you going to make an impact if that's the case? And I was like, wow, you're right. Like, because if I go to the NBA, I'm not shooting 12 shots a game.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who's getting paid $30 million is going to shoot 12 shots a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the same thing with, when you want to go to a better team or with better players, your role is going to change. And how do you impact the game when that is not the case? And so, my role changed at Indiana to where I had to become a better defender. Coach Woodson won't play if you can't play defense.
Right.
And that was something that I had to do to get on the floor. And so at the end of the day, it's just about figuring out how you can get on the floor and how you can gain the coach's trust, because those are the two biggest things at the end of the day.
Right. Oh, man, I love that. And that's so true because so many of our guys now, high school players, think that everything is scoring. The college coaches want you to shoot all these shots. But the reality is there's only so many college players that even come close to averaging 20 points. But like you said,
Oh,
I mean, your role. So like you said, you might get 5 shots, 4 shots, 3 shots. How can you impact the game? I love that. And obviously you impacted in winning ways. That's why you started 144 games.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no, it's definitely important because yeah, scoring is great, especially in high school and in AAU, but man, for example, I led the Under Armour circuit in scoring. But in college, there was 2 years that was what was my job.
Right.
2 out of 5.
Right.
And now that's not necessarily it. It's making shots.
Right.
So it all changes.
Right. I love that. Can I ask about taking care of your body as far as weight room? And you had several different nuggets on here. Number 7 was weight room. Number 33, stay in shape. Number 39, sleep more. Number 40, nutrition can set you apart. Can you talk about those 4 things: nutrition, sleep, weight room, and just what that went into, how much work you personally put in, and just how important that is for sustainability in college basketball?
Yeah, well, it's super important because it's getting more mainstream now, guys
Hmm.
taking care of their bodies and stuff, but, you know, there's all these ice bath recovery modalities, the Normatec boots, the massage guns, but that's like drops in the bucket of your body's health and recovery. You know, 85, 90% of it is your diet, your sleep, and your training. Like those 3 things are gonna tell me or tell you how successful and how sustainable you're gonna be and how well your body is gonna,
Right.
take on load. And so for me, I've always been really into, those things because I knew I had to be set myself apart
Mm.
somehow. I wasn't always the most athletic or the quickest guy, but I knew if I could give myself an edge, why would I not? And
Right.
so those three things are like, nobody really wants to do them or like thinks they need to do them until they do it and they feel incredible. And so I really took in my nutrition and sleep, and just all the holistic kind of approach to my body, the stretching, the routines before, when I wake up, before I go to bed. I'm very routine oriented with everything I do,
Hmm.
and it makes everything a lot easier because I don't have to think about it. I can just do it. I can just sit down and do it, and it's made my life and my career this far a lot easier.
Right. Right. And I think, that goes into a little bit of this next one I wanted to ask you about. But what you said, be a pro. And what does that mean? And I'm assuming part of that is basketball, but part of it is going outside of basketball also. Here you go, Jude. There, it's working now. Okay,
We go.
there we go. Back on. So be a pro. I love it. Hey, good work. You're a pro at that. We got it fixed. Okay. So what does it mean to be a pro when you're in college? Because that also is going to separate apart. Is that like off the court, on the court, a little bit of everything?
It's both. I mean, I learned this my freshman year at Northwestern. I had an assistant coach who took me and the other freshmen under his wing, and we had a timer set on the floor before practice. So say practice started at 3, a 60-minute timer would start at 2. And we had to be out on the court, shoes tied, 60 minutes before practice.
Oh,
And
wow.
and we do literally like a full court, throw the ball in 3 dribbles, layup, come back, layup, one more time, and then it's like, all right, it's on. And
Hmm.
so we're doing footwork, we're doing, ball handling, we're doing defensive slides, we're doing everything. And so we'd go till about like 20 minutes before practice and be like, all right, go ahead, get some water. And so we'd be drenched, just like dog tired, get like a little juice or something, and then come back out for practice. And we did that all our freshman summer, our freshman year. And that kind of, along with, everything else that I've done leading up to that, that helped me understand like, okay, in college, just showing up for practice is not enough. And leaving right after is not enough.
Yeah.
So it helped me learn the routine of like, what this is how you work. You come early, because there's a saying like early is on time and on time is late.
Yep.
Like that's true. You can live by that or not, but if you get there 60 minutes before, you're late because then you got to get taped and then you got to get dressed and then you're go to the bathroom and then it's 25 minutes before
Right.
practice. Which I know some guys still think that's early, but like it's really not. And
Yeah.
if you really want to understand, like during a practice, I've done this since high school. I don't do it every day, but like if I'm curious and kind of just want something to do in my brain, it's like I'll count how many makes and how many shots I get in practice, really
Wow.
shots.
Yeah.
And you'll look up in the day, you're like, wow, I only got 22 shots. It's like the practice
in
is
the
for
whole practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you feel like you're like, wow, I had a good day. I got a lot of good work in. You really didn't. You got 22 shots. You probably made like 8 of them, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Not counting layups. Like,
Right.
so if you just go by like, hey, we had a good practice today, or I had a tough day at practice, you may have physically, but you didn't get better, right? And so like, if you only use the off season as your time to get better and improve, your incremental improvements are gonna be, you won't be able to see them.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to be a pro in college through that freshman year of seeing like, okay, I made a huge jump from my freshman to sophomore year. Why was that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just worked way more than everybody else, like visibly more.
Yep.
Right before lifts, I'd be in the gym shooting.
Mm.
After practice, I had my shooting routine. I came back that night. That summer, I was making shots, and obviously, you have to do something that's sustainable, and I did. But for me, it was about mapping out a plan of, hey, this is my summer.
Yep.
I'm going to make this amount of shots every single day. And by the end of the summer, I'm going to have, my goal, every summer is 20,000 makes, from 3.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that maps out to whatever it is, like 346 makes a day, which is really nothing if you really think about it.
Yep.
And so I had it down to a timer of like, I could get in the gym and then get on the gun if I didn't have anybody to rebound for me. And I could make 100 shots in 7.5 minutes. And so I'm in and out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
putting your work in.
Yeah. Whether I want to shower or not. So like, if you don't have 30 minutes a day, to get your work in at the very, very, very least, you really don't want it bad enough. And so I learned how to be a pro just by seeing other guys who were still scratching and clawing for playing time as seniors.
Yep.
Fighting with me as a freshman. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. That's not how I operate. And so I just decided like, hey, I need to do a lot more than these people.
Yep. I love that. And what you said too, in one of your points was you said doing the extra is not extra. It should be the standard. And that's what you were doing there. I love that. I got to go to this though. What does start a Twitter beef with Portnoy with the Barstool guy? How did that happen?
It was funny because he started me, right? We were in the Big Ten tournament 2 years ago. I had a backdoor cut. He's a Michigan fan, right? We're playing Michigan.
Yep.
Come back and beat him. We're down like 18 with like, I guess like 8 minutes to go in the second half. Like, it was a great comeback, great game.
Yep.
And I had a backdoor cut, right? From the wing. My guy's overplaying me. Don't know why he's overplaying me. And you gotta send me away from the rim. He overplays and I back cut. And I'm like, dang, like I'm actually like open. Like I could dunk this. Like I'm never this open at the rim. And I go up with like 2 hands, like I'm gonna dunk it. Knee gives out, like locks. Boom.
Oh.
One of those. Like you're so excited looking up, and then your leg, like your knee is like an inch farther than it should be, and you just don't get high enough, right? But I lay it up and I make it, and I guess he made a video about it. One thing led to another. It went pretty viral, but it was hilarious because I responded a couple times, and now we can laugh about it because it was it's funny. You got to be able to laugh at yourself and understand that it's all just a game.
Yeah, no, that's funny, and he has some good Twitter beef, so I'm glad you got into one with him. I got to ask one more, staying with that kind of theme, though. You also said when you shake Izzo's hand, shake it hard.
Oh yeah, he's one of those guys who's so intense. I remember, like, I won't say the guy's name, but I remember we were playing him. A freshman, shot a tough 3, like early in the shot clock, contested 3. Running back down the court, and this is during COVID, so you could hear everything.
Yeah.
And he yells as loud as he can. He goes, "If you shoot that shot again, you're coming out." But with like a lot more cuss words.
Sure.
And I was running down the court. I was like, "Dang, like this guy is nuts." Like obviously, like in a great way, he knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
I respect him and I love his program and stuff. But like, I heard that and I'm like, dang, like, all right, after this game, I'm gonna give this guy a good shake. Because I was like, he's probably gonna respect it, right? He's a guy that probably shakes. He just looks like a hard handshake type of guy.
Yeah. definitely.
So if you ever do, you don't want to go in soft
No,
at
g
all.
go in hard. No, I could see Izzo saying that he is intense. I love that. And you said Coach Collins showed you that the basketball or told you the basketball gods are real.
Yeah, he always talked about it. It kind of got
Mhm.
annoying, but
Yeah,
it's true.
yeah.
It's like you saw guys, you know, whether it was they're making shots or they weren't, or you could tell who was in the gym and who wasn't.
Mm,
It was clear
right,
who
right.
had a good summer and who didn't.
Yep,
Who was staying after practice, who doesn't. And as a head coach, I mean, obviously you're responsible for everything,
right.
and he obviously saw it all and sees everything. And so he would always talk about like the basketball gods, like you get in what you get, what you put out,
Right.
and or you get out what you put in. So he would never stop talking about that. But it's so true because the times that I've always been like this, but when you really know that you're giving all you have and enough,
Mhm.
then you're going to reap the benefits. Just a matter of time.
Right, right, and things all even out, and you put the work in, it's gonna pay off,
Yeah.
reap the benefits. I love that. Can you talk about over your 5 years, NIL came about, and you mentioned you said NIL changed the game, um, maybe for good, maybe for bad, maybe for a little bit of both. I just wanna get your thoughts on it because 'cause you're in the locker room. How do players talk about that? Like, maybe not so much even just when coaches are around, just like, what is the impact overall college basketball with NIL?
So NIL it's one of those things where people on the outside are, there were questions about like if it would mess up the locker room, or,
Mhm.
guys might get jealous if they know who's getting what.
Right.
I didn't experience any of that,
Okay.
not with myself or with my teammates at all,
Yep.
because at this age, if you're 18, or my case was 23, is like you are happy for your teammates that they can get paid, they
Right.
can make some money,
Right.
right? And so it's like, you're just like, dang man, like let's go. Like I know some of my friends who have told me like what they've got, and you know, my first reaction, and I know a lot of other guys is like let's go, like
Yeah.
congrats, man, this like good for you.
Right.
And that's the overarching theme and everything. And there's obviously so many cases of like being able to use it for good and use your NIL for good. And I think guys are really understanding that. And it also is an intro into the quote unquote real world, because guys will learn how to spend money, how to lose money,
Right.
how to be smart with money, how to be dumb with money.
Yeah.
And the good part about it is like, you know, they're not on their own doing it.
Right.
Like they're not 30 and now they just have this money,
Yeah.
right? And so obviously Indiana is the you know top of the top in terms of NIL opportunities for
Sure.
players, and I know that for a fact.
Yep.
But so I only know it from the
Yep.
upper echelon of
Sure.
everything. But I do know, um, with the whole landscape of things, it's definitely changing recruiting, and it'll be very interesting to see if guys are going to make the right decision basketball wise because of NIL. That's going to be my thing. Is like
Right.
you'll really be able to see the fit of these players and if it really fits basketball wise on the court.
Right. And that's going back to what we talked about earlier about finding the fit is so important, not maybe making $100 more at University X or whatever.
Exactly.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I love what you said. Number 83, basketball is simple. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's something that I uh, I love the game, and I've talked about, during the season. I love talking with the assistant coaches and the grad assistants about schemes and about coverages and
Mhm.
about plays and about different coaches' actions they run and how to guard this. How would you guard this? You know, maybe we guard it differently if we had this type of player or this type of wing or guard, or if this guy talked more. But but at the end of the day, Coach Woody does a good job of this. Is like keeping the game simple. As like, okay, where do we want the ball? We want the ball not at the rim.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna make sure to push everything away from the rim.
Mhm.
Or a shot goes up. what do? You just hit somebody, right?
Right.
If you're standing and watching, you're probably doing something wrong at all points of the game.
Right.
Whether it's you're on defense, whether it's you're on offense, there's probably something in somewhere, some place you could be moving.
Right.
So it's a really simple game, but when you do break it down, there's a lot of intricacies. But at the end of the day, I know for myself as a senior, one of my roles that I took on is like helping the freshmen, especially the wings,
Mm-hmm.
because in scout, like, number one, I'm trying to get in and out and make it quick. And so I'm
Right.
telling these guys, like, look, like, just watch me, just watch what I do and do exactly what I do. Don't mess up, because I don't want to have coach do it again.
Right.
And they mess it up. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, I literally did it right. I was talking the whole time. But, one thing I learned is that, like, you need to dumb things down for everybody at every level.
Shit. Yep.
Like, the ball's here. You need to be right here.
Yep.
Why? Because this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay. And we don't help from the strong side corner. Why? Okay, well, because there's no help.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many things to where, when you really understand basketball, it's like, okay, if my man gets beat, I got to help him.
Yep.
And he's going to help me. And it's one of those things where when you watch it and you see it on the floor, it makes sense if you can really put two and two together.
Yep, exactly. And I love that. And basketball is simple, and just you gotta understand, like, the basketball IQ. I say this as a coach all the time, is so important, but don't overthink the game. Like you said, be where you're supposed to be. Just be where you're supposed to be. Star in your role. Keep it simple. Such an excellent thread. I do want to ask you about Coach Woody a little bit before we move to a different topic. You said he's basketball obsessed. He seems like a very good man. I don't know him personally, but can you just talk about Coach a little bit?
Yeah, no, he's just I got off the phone with him yesterday. He's a very genuine person. He understands that it's bigger than basketball. He understands that at the end of the day, when you decide to play for him, you're now part of his family. And that feels good as a player because, like I said before, a coach-player, relationship a lot of times is transactional. I'm going to be the best player I can be to try to get on the floor, and you're going to hopefully reward me for that with playing time. That's how it goes. I'm going to give, you're going to take.
Yep.
You're going to give, I'm going to take.
Yep.
But he made it more than that, and which makes it easier to play for a guy like that. So, he's a very straightforward guy. He's like, hey, I need you to do these things. He told me in the off season, you need to do these things: make shots and be our best wing defender. All right, that's it. Like that. Yeah, that's it. Like I didn't go into the off season doing like defensive slides. All I heard was like, make shots. Okay, got it. I can do that. Like that's simple. And it made it easy to play for him because he like I said, he really simplified things for me as a player and a lot of other guys. And he's somebody who is gonna find a way. Like if I called him right now and said, hey coach, like I need help with this, he'd be like, all right, who is this? But also, no, I'm kidding. No, he'd probably answer on his flip phone and doesn't have caller ID, and then say, who is this? And then be like, oh, hey. And then help. Like that's just who he is. He just gives because he's done so much in his career in terms of basketball and coaching and playing that he doesn't need anything else. He wants to win at the highest level. And in terms of his basketball, like just obsession, the guy will talk for hours on end about basketball, like hours. Like they'll be sitting in those meetings in their, conference room for 3-4 hours before practice. And he's just talking, and he's just up on the TV and the board, just like going through things. And I'll walk in there and just peek my head in, and he's just like, what are you doing here? Get out of here. Like jokingly. And so I'll go in there and just like tell him like, hey coach, we got to guard it this way. And we'll go on a tangent about something else. You could just tell he just lives, and breathes the game. So it's refreshing to know you're playing for a coach like that.
Yep, absolutely, man. You had two great college coaches there, and that's transactional, but also transformational.
Definitely,
And that's the kind of leader he seems like he is.
definitely.
Indiana's in good hands there. This has been great, Miller. I just a couple more questions I have to ask. First, I just want to talk about shooting. Um, obviously you're a great shooter. A lot goes into it. You already talked about how hard you worked and before practice and everything. But if you had to give some advice to young listeners who may listen to this podcast, and then also, you can talk a little bit about your Primal Academy and what you do for shooters to help them. And I know it's hard to give in just a quick sound bite, turn someone into a great shooter. But what kind
Right
of
on.
advice would you give to people who just want to improve their shooting?
I'd say the simplest thing is find a routine
Okay.
and create a
Yep.
routine.
Yep.
I've done as a basketball player, but shooter, specifically, I have obsessed over shooting and how to be a better shooter and what I can do, what other shooters do as well. And everything I've found in terms of listening to podcasts and reading articles and
Mhm.
looking at, old film of, guys warming up before NBA games or, every player has a routine. Every single one. Every NBA player you see has a routine, a game day routine, a practice routine, a lifting routine, a stretching routine, everything.
Yep.
And nothing is more important to a shooter, in my opinion, than a routine
Mm.
because it takes all the thinking, the guesswork out of it. And so that's my biggest advice to a player is like find a routine, whether it's you start at the rim and make some form shots and then you back up a little bit and then shoot some mid range and then go to free throws and then do some finishing and then you do some mid range and then you start shooting threes. Like, okay, that's great. It's going to help you because more than trying to change your form, right? Like my form changed from my senior year of high school to my senior year in college.
Mm.
Not because I changed it myself, but because my body changed. I
Mm.
changed the way I moved. I got in the weight room, I got stronger. Certain muscles, started to activate that weren't, 4 years before,
Right.
right? Like my shot changed from my sophomore year to my senior year. And so it's just weird how those things works, but I didn't decide like, okay, I'm going to change my shot. I'm going to move my shot pocket a little more to the right, or I'm going to flick my wrist a little more. Like that, when you start doing that, you're screwed.
Right.
You're screwed because I've been down that rabbit hole. I think we all have.
Mm-hmm.
Is of like, okay, I'm gonna, I feel like I need a little more wrist flick, or like, I'm gonna instead of flicking my wrist or following through with these fingers, I'm really gonna work on that. It's like I've done all of it.
Right.
I've changed my feet. I've done the shot pocket a little inch to the right, inch to the left, an inch lower, an inch higher. It's like you're gonna go crazy with that stuff.
Right.
And I've spent hours and hours and hours in the gym trying to figure it out when I've been going through a slump or in the summer. I've been able to make a shot. Like it just happens. But
Right.
the best way to build confidence as a shooter is to find a routine. And you do it before you even shoot a shot in the gym, messing around before you chuck up a half court shot, before practice or after practice. You're like, I know I'm going to do these form
Mm-hmm.
shots. It's only, you know, 80 makes, which takes 15 minutes at most, right?
Right.
But I know it's going to help me be more consistent with my shot pocket, with my
Yep.
follow through, which then allows me when I do start practice, I'm going to be more consistent in my actual shot because like you said you mentioned I'm building out what I'm calling Primal Academy. It's a going to be a very started out as a shooting program,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I'm like, how do I give what I know best, which is shooting. And I did a bunch of like research in terms of like what else is out there in terms of shooting and shooting programs, and there's so many things about how we're going to change your shot. You're going to do all these drills to find your natural shot pocket, and there's a million ways to shoot. JJ
Right.
Redick shoots different than Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson shoots different than Reggie Miller. Like, you can't say there's one way to shoot, but there are a couple staples. But what all those guys have is they've perfected their own shot, right? And the
Right.
best way to do that is, in my opinion, build a routine. And
Right.
so, um, all the best shooters in the world have a routine. And so it that's what I'm helping or building out to help kids and players of all ages and grades, girls, guys, find their routine and be able to build off that, right? So it'll be like an 8-week, or it'll be a 9-week program, and the 9th week will be okay. Now you make your own week of workouts, of routines, and so now it's like, okay, I know going into a gym, I'm not going to go in and just chuck up a three. Like all the worst 3-point shooters I've ever seen, guys who just can't really make shots, and whether they've worked on it their whole career in college, they walk into a gym, the shoes are unlaced, and they just chuck up a corner three and just it clanks off the rim, and they're like, oh, let me get it back.
Right.
No, you got to go in like a surgeon, like a sniper. Like you're going in with one bullet in your gun, and that's it. Like that's all I got. And I'm gonna like how much preparation would you have before you shot that bullet if you knew you only had one and you couldn't miss? That's how I think of shooting, right?
Right.
And so you
Love
go
that.
into a gym with a plan and a routine to be able to always fall back on. And so I boil success, in my opinion, sometimes, to your habits, not hope. Hope a shot goes in, you build a habit to make the shot go in.
Right.
So that's what I'm building, and it'll be coming out. I'm not exactly sure when, but there's going to be strength and conditioning program as well, because I think kids need to get stronger so they can shoot in a more natural way and find their own shots. And there's going to be a parent kind of coaching guide as well, because my parents have, basically done a lot and messed up a lot, but also done a lot right to help me and my brothers, play Division I sports. So
Right. A very athletic family. I know that's great advice, and you are so right about that routine. When guys come into the gym, we have too many times when I'm in a gym, I see guys just come in and do different things each day. Versus, like you said, every pro, every NBA player, high level Division I, you have that routine. Can I ask last question about that? Just how did you come up with your routine? Did you write it with a coach, assistant coach, or did you make it yourself and just own it? And this is what you like to do?
So I had at Northwestern. I had
Okay.
my progression as a shooter, as a worker, as a shooter, as started about like, okay, my freshman year. So I didn't play a lot. I only played like 8 minutes that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I stayed after, shot on the gun. Okay, the next day I'd shoot before and after practice because I wasn't getting as many reps. Right,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need to be that fresh. So the first phase was like, I need the reps. Right? Like I'm just going to shoot way more than everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll help. And that bumped me up. Right? But then when you get to a point where people know you're a shooter and they guard you a little better, and you have to have more shots in the move and shoot things that, shoot shots that are more difficult, you have to practice those shots. And now you have to have it's becomes more of a skill,
Right.
more of a hard skill about learning these exact shots and being confident in them. And so one of the grad assistants at Northwestern, Mike Greenman, was roommates with Duncan Robinson at
Michigan, maybe.
at Michigan, but also the D3. Where do you go?
Oh, okay. The D3 school he was at.
Yes.
I can't name it, but I know he was at a
He's gonna
D3
be
school.
pissed. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So they were roommates, right?
Right.
And so they would always work out together. And then in Michigan, similar thing. And so he helped me initially start my sophomore year, which is when I made the big jump, start my routine.
Okay.
And he told me what his routine, Duncan's routine was. And I was like, that's not bad. And so I took like some pieces of that I liked and then added something myself. And then that's how it's kind of started. And then from then, it was just about just being a junkie and looking at drills and look at stuff like that JJ Redick did, and then changing stuff that, I saw KD does, and then, looking at like NBA trainers, what they do in the summer and stealing drills from them. And then, I have a routine now that, I did or do every summer. It's anywhere from like 300 to 400 makes, and takes me 30 to 40 minutes max. And it has every single shot, every angle that you could imagine that you would take in a game. Yep. That's it. And so it's allowed me, to start at the rim, then around the paint, then from the front of the rim to the free throw line, then free throws, a couple mid-range, and then I'm moving. And
Yep.
then it's threes, right?
Okay.
So it's, I don't shoot threes. Like I hate shooting threes when I don't warm up, because I like to feel my shot and see the ball go through the rim. So yeah, it's something that morphed from a GA who was roommates with Duncan Robinson into something that it is now, that I do before practice, after practice, before games. Yeah.
I love it. Love it. And you got your routine, and that's something that I know you'll be helping others find in that Primal Academy too, once you get that all set up. Well,
Definitely.
this has been wonderful. So many good nuggets. I encourage everyone listening, obviously, to follow you on Twitter, a great Twitter follower. Excited to follow you as your future endeavors. I know you got big things, and God has big things in store for you. We always finish our podcast with a restaurant recommendation from where you are. And I know in Houston, there's so many where you live, but you are in Bloomington. So we got to do Bloomington. We don't have one yet from Indiana. Where could you send someone if they come watch a Hoosier game to go eat?
All right. I'm going to give you a different answer. I'm going to give you
Okay.
So I'm a big coffee guy. And so Indiana, I was known for, getting a lot of coffees and stuff before games in the mornings and stuff. So I was a regular. So I'm going to say you wake up in the morning, it's a game day. You're going to go to Inkwell, get a coffee there.
Okay.
It's good vibes, good people there. If you're feeling frisky, man, get a scone or something. If I had a good game, I'll get a scone the next morning. Why not?
Right. Why not?
And then before the game, you're going to want to keep it light because it's nerves, right? So you may get like a salad somewhere after, or like tacos or something at Social Cantina.
Mm-hmm.
But then after the game, you're going to go to you're going to go to what's it called? I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah.
I'm already forgetting.
A
Crazy
good
Horse. You're going
Crazy
to
Horse? Okay.
You're going to Crazy Horse, and you're going to get like Cajun chicken pasta, even though I'm not really a pasta guy.
Okay.
But I feel like that's going to give you a good Indiana like experience. It's not a normal answer, but that's what
I love that answer because it took them from the morning, your coffee, your scone, feel a little frisky, get you a salad before the game, and then Crazy Horse after game to celebrate a Hoosier win. I mean, this is perfect.
Yes.
I'm going to bring my wife to Bloomington because I know she'll want the coffee part. That'll make her happy. I don't think we've had anyone say that yet. Miller, you're the man. I appreciate you coming on, taking time from your day. Congratulations on an unbelievable 5-year career in the Big Ten. It's a very cool honor. I know you're proud of to have started that many games in the Big Ten. So many stories. Excited to follow you because I know you have stuff coming up that we'll be following your career. And just thank you for coming on today and dropping some great nuggets.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me. I had a blast.
Absolutely. Stay safe. Thank you again for joining us. And just a reminder to do us a huge favor and hit subscribe if you're on YouTube before you get off the podcast. Subscribe wherever you're watching the podcast, Apple Podcasts. We hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank my producer, Jude McLaren, who makes all this possible, and our sponsors, Pie Society, right here in San Marcos, pizza, beer, spirits, and of course, Zelik's Ice House. Swing in there for a good time with friends and enjoy. Thank you for joining the podcast, and we'll be back again soon. Thank you for supporting Basketball and Brew.